that you chose to be here with us on this beautiful day. We are going to start our service off by singing and worship. We'd love for you to join in with us. Tell me
Good morning, everybody. You can go ahead and have a seat for just a couple of moments. Welcome to Believers. My name is Heather. I'm the executive director here, and I'm so glad you've chosen to spend part of this beautiful Sunday here with your church family. And if you're a first-time guest with us today, we're especially glad that you've decided to come check out what God is doing at Believers. I want to encourage everyone right now to pull out your phones. First, make sure they're silent so you don't ruin stuff through the service, okay? So pull out the phones, silence them, and then scan those QR codes that you'll find all across the auditorium. And when you do that, you're going to be prompted to open up the Believers Church app. And if you don't have that yet, you can download it now, and you will find our communication card there. And we ask everyone to fill this out, whether you've been coming to Believers for a long time or if today is your very first time. If it is your first time, we want you to know that doing this is a totally safe thing to do. We're not showing up for lunch today. We're not going to be stopping by this week. We just want to get some free stuff in your hands. So fill that out, and then make sure you swing by the guest services kiosk to pick up your free goodies. We have some food cards that you can choose from and some information about Believers that we want to give to you. Also, through the app, you're going to be able to follow along with message notes and just even turn in prayer requests. And our staff prays for every request that comes in on those cards each and every week. And so we just consider it a huge honor to pray for whatever is on your heart or whatever you want to praise the Lord for. We want to be right there with you. Today, before we do that, since you have your phones out, go ahead and check in on Facebook and Instagram and let everybody know that you're worshiping with us today. When you use the hashtag #BeLoveToOasis, we also get to just kind of point out our awesome local partner, Oasis Social Ministries, and we're able to give them a little boost in donations. So go ahead and do that, and we can spread the love of what they do for our community in helping end food insecurity. So now, I want to tell you about today. Today we are wrapping up our Re-Engage series, and it's been an awesome 4 weeks so far, and I have no doubt that Pastor Tyler is just going to bring it home for us today. I'm so glad that you're here to participate in this, but if you've missed any weeks, go back and listen to those. We have discussions even on our podcast, Made for Mondays, and you can get all caught up in this series. Maybe you just need a reminder. But today is going to be an awesome time of just wrapping up what God has designed for our marriages. And so as we prepare to hear from Pastor Tyler and hear from God's Word, I'm going to invite you to stand and join us as we continue our time of singing.
Spirit of the living God,
you speak, confusion fades. It's just a word. Suddenly I'm not afraid, 'cause you speak and freedom reigns. There is hope in every single word you say. I don't wanna miss one word you speak, 'cause everything you say is life to me. I don't wanna miss one word you speak. Quiet my heart and listen.
When sorrows roll and troubles rage, you whisper peace. When I don't have the words to say, I won't lose hope. When storms won't break, you keep your word. Oh, your promises will keep me safe.
I don't wanna miss one word you speak, 'cause everything you say is life to me. Oh, I don't wanna miss one word you speak. So quiet my heart and listen.
You know just what I need. I trust you, Jesus. You see what I cannot see. Your ways are higher. You know just what I need. I trust you, Jesus. You see what I cannot see. Your ways are higher. You know just what I need. I trust you, Jesus. You see what I cannot see. Your ways are higher. You know just what I need. I trust you, Jesus. You see what I cannot see.
Sing it out together. I don't wanna miss one word you speak, 'cause everything you say is life to me. Oh, I don't wanna miss one word you speak. Quiet my heart and listen. I don't wanna miss one word you speak, 'cause everything you say is life to me. I don't wanna miss one word you speak. Quiet my heart and listen. I don't wanna miss one word you speak. Everything you say is life to me. I don't wanna miss one word you speak. So quiet my heart and listening. Thank you guys for worshiping with us this morning. You can have a seat.
morning, Believers Church. Hey, y'all, my name is Tyler. I'm the Next Steps pastor here, and I'm so excited to get into the Word with y'all this morning. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and pray, and then we will jump right in. God, thank you for this time. Thank you for everyone in the room. I just pray, Lord, that you will speak to everyone's heart, married or not, in whatever situation they're in. God, I just pray that you will speak today, and just thank you so much for who you are. In your name I pray. Amen. Well, y'all, like Heather said, we are finishing up Re-Engage. It has been a fun series to walk through, but it is a marriage series. And even saying that from stage, if I maybe wasn't preaching this morning, I'd be like, well, time for me to go. But it is a marriage series that is incredibly beneficial because what is a marriage other than a relationship? And the principles that we have been walking through, I would argue, have been helpful for anyone in any relationship anywhere. And because life is all about relationships, whether we like it or not, whether we know it or not, they are all about relationships. And it is incredibly important to know how to have communication because there will be conflict in relationships. And that is what we are talking about today, conflict and communication. It's not the fun thing, but it is a necessary thing to talk through and work through because God's glory can be shown through it. And conflict, honestly, is a little bit like taxes. It's going to come whether you like it or not. That's how conflict is. And so it's helpful to know how to communicate and walk through it because it will come. And so the question that can be in our heads is like, how do we follow Jesus, but also deal with interpersonal conflict that we have with other people, especially in a marriage? How do we do that in a healthy way? And to kind of share that story and walk through that, I want to talk about a little bit my own story with my wife, Karina, and I. And it is a non-conventional, a little bit of a messier story. And I love being able to share it on this side of that story, even as it continues to be written, because God was present with us in the darkest times that we have had together. And I want to share with y'all kind of what he has done with us and our ability to have conflict and communicate in a healthy way through that. And hopefully something will be helpful to you this morning. And with our story, so we have been married for almost 2 years now. In May will be our second anniversary. And the time has just flown by so fast. They say it just blinks by, and it really, really does. But prior to us getting married, we dated for, I should have this written down, I can't remember off the top of my head, we dated for about 7 or 8 years. And in that story, to make a long story a little bit shorter, we broke up twice. We were engaged twice and broke up twice after engagements. And those breakups were initiated by yours truly. And speaking of which, her parents are 2 colonels in the Army. And so I had to go ask for their daughter's hand 3 times. So I wasn't their favorite guy in the world, but everything God has done the work, y'all. And I really want to share a lot about that. And so it's part of our story. So the first time we broke up, Karina asked me to go to counseling. And I said, no, I don't want to go to counseling. I have everything figured out. What do you mean? I don't need to go listen to somebody tell me how to figure things out. I got it, okay? And we were broken up at the time. So I didn't go to counseling. We ended up getting back together and then broke up again. Another caveat, she was in dental school at the time trying to become a doctor. The first time I broke up with her was during finals. And then this next time was she had just failed a board exam. So my timing was terrible, awful, absolutely terrible. And really, outside of Jesus in our story, her heart of graciousness, kindness, and just never giving up is absolutely amazing. And I have to stop because if I keep talking about it, I am going to cry. But she's just amazing. And her heart through this whole story was so beautiful. So after the second breakup, though, we didn't talk for 3 months. 3 whole months. No social media. I took off all the pictures. I threw away a lot of our old stuff that we had together. I thought it was over. I thought it was over and done with. And then one of her friends gives me a call and says, Tyler, how are you doing? What's going on in your life? How are you coping? All that kind of stuff. And then she suggested counseling to me. And you know how it is when one person is telling you to do one thing over and over and over, and somebody else tells you one time and you do it, that's what happened to me. So I finally went to counseling, and y'all, it was absolutely amazing going to counseling. Looking back on it now, when I first sat down with that lady, and if you've ever heard me tell this story, this is the lady that told me I was emotionally constipated. I've shared that several times before, but this is that famous lady. And she was amazing because she called me out on everything. She didn't let me get away with anything. If you've ever been to counseling before, I know sometimes you don't vibe with the counselor. I thought I didn't vibe with her. I didn't like her in the moment, but she was so impactful and beneficial to me. And as a sidebar, I do want to mention that counseling is amazing. Having someone to process whatever it is that's going on in your life with someone who is impersonal and impartial to you is so helpful. Counseling has a negative stigma about it that it's only for quote unquote broken people or people who have something higher wrong with them. And I hate to tell all y'all in the room, but we are all broken people. And having someone that we can process just life with is so helpful because we all have a story and we all have baggage and things in our lives that are hard to walk through, and having someone to process with is so helpful. But as I said, she told me I was emotionally constipated. And so as we walked through that, what I began to see and understand and learn from her was that emotions were not weaknesses. They were actually God-given and ordained to help enjoy and process life. And she helped me to walk through and understand that because for me, everything was good. If I broke my leg, that's a good day. Someone stole my car. Oh, it's a good day. It's all good. Everything's fine. Or I, ace a test. Everything's good. But there were so many other emotional words like sadness or anger or frustration or joy, exuberance, and I had no idea how to process or work through until I met with her. And so through that time, she helped me to write like a 10-page paper walking through Karina's and I's entire story. And I was going to use that to try to get back with Karina because what I realized talking to this counselor was that the issues that I thought were the issues were not the issues. And that was a huge revelation to me. And I loved Karina and wanted to get back with her. And so I approach her, try to do this whole thing, the song and dance. And she says no at first. She says, no, I need to take this board and pass it before I even can think about talking to you again. And so I totally understood it. I got it. And y'all, I'm just telling you, if you ever met her before, she's super quiet, but man, she has a heart of gold, and it's shown through this whole story. And so I wrote the letter, gave it to her. We sat down, she read it, and I said, okay, all right, so you ready to get married now, or what? Like what's the pause? Like, can we move forward? And she says, hold on, sir. I will not move forward with you at all until we go to counseling together. That was the stipulation. And so I said, okay, I should listen to you the first time, so I'm going to get it right this time and go to counseling with you. And so we did. And we awkwardly sat way away from each other as we sit in our first counseling session with this new person. And that counseling was absolutely incredible too, and I'll share about that. But to give you a little bit of an insight to our story, if you asked us before we walked through the thresholds of that counselor's door into her office, if you would have asked me what I thought the problem was, I would have said, Karina wants to please her parents and her family more than me. That's what I thought the issue was. That's all I could see in front of me. And for her looking at me, and I know this because I asked her this, same thing, what would she have said? She would have said, Tyler wants to get married on his time, his way, irrespective of anybody else that I love or care about. That was the issues as we walked, that's what we thought the issues were as we walked into those doors. And in that counseling session, we learned so much about our upbringing, how our being raised has an effect on you, good or bad. I had no concept of understanding of that the way I see life and carry out things has a large deal to deal with my upbringing, and same for her. What I also learned was that we have deep level soul needs. Every single person, whether you believe in God or follow Jesus or not, deep level needs that we need to have answered. And when those needs are not met, that comes out in conflict. It comes out messy at times. And what I learned truly is that God has made her and wired her differently than me. It's not that she's wrong. It's not that she is doing things, again, wrong. She is wired totally different than me and sees the world so different than I can. And there's a beauty to that, but I didn't see it at first. And I know that y'all, as y'all sit here, we're all humans. All we can see is behavior. And a lot of times there's things we don't like in the behavior that we can see, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But the soul needs of people, the deep-seated needs that we all have, and the ones that were brought up from that counseling, different personality tests that we have covered were acceptance, significance, and security. Acceptance, significance, and security. So a person who is more, well, I shouldn't say a person, we all have these needs, but we can feel them more strongly in different situations, different times in our lives. For acceptance, that's a person that wants harmony, wants everybody to be together, can be a people pleaser, and I mean that in the best way possible, wants people to be happy, wants to do things to be accepted into a group. That is a person who is driven by acceptance. Significance. Significance is a person that wants to make sure their life means something. The things that they are doing every single day are pushing the ball forward, accomplishing the goal, getting the task done. That's a person driven by significance. And lastly, security is a person that wants to process, hit the marks, make sure I'm doing every single thing right. I don't want to move forward. It may take me some time to get there, but I want to make sure I'm doing everything right. And so these are all soul level needs that we all have to some degree, and we're trying to answer, to fill those needs some kind of way. And ultimately, what I should have known is what the counselor helped us to see is that these soul needs can only fully be met with a relationship with Jesus. He lived the perfect life, died the death that we deserve, to give us a chance to have a relationship, to restore what we lost when we sinned against God. With Jesus, you are accepted fully based on what he has done, not our performance, on his perfection, fully accepted into his family. You are significant because Jesus saw fit to leave heaven for you and for me. You are significant. You have value. And you are secure when you have a relationship with him, because once you are in his family, nothing can separate you from his love. Those needs can only fully be met with the relationship with Jesus, and yet we try to answer those things, to fill those needs in so many other ways. With marriage, with children, with career, with finances, with cars, clothes, social media. We try to fill those needs. Are those things bad in of themselves? No, they're not. They're gifts, not the giver. And when we try to put a gift to fill a soul need completely like that, that's where we get chaos and conflict. And the reason why I want to look at the internal first is because the internal is where true heart change, soul change happens that affects the external. Now, externally, there are some things that we might not like in people. You could have someone who invalidates feelings, gives the classic apology, a pet peeve of mine to say, I'm sorry for how you feel, not I'm sorry for what I did to make you feel that way. Invalidating feelings, external behavior of manipulation or sarcasm, low balls, trying to hit below the belt, all those kind of things, all these external behaviors that we can see can make us miss what's going on the inside. And so that's why I want to focus on that for today. And so I'll share more about our story and how it intertwines and how we have tried to manage our conflict with better communication by looking internally rather than just at the external. But I know a question can be in the room, and I want to address it. What if I'm not married? What if I'm separated? What if I'm divorced? What if I don't ever want to be married, especially listening to your story, Tyler? What if I don't want any parts of any of that? Like, what about me in the room? And what I want to tell you is relationship conflict comes everywhere. If I was to ask anybody in the room, I'm sure you could share that you might be in conflict or just got out of conflict with somebody, whether it's your mama, your dad, cousin, sister, brother, at work with your boss, friends, dating, wherever it is, wherever there's a relationship, there is a chance for some conflict. And so talking about conflict, soul needs, upbringing is helpful for everybody because everybody has them, an upbringing and soul needs that they're trying to answer. And maybe some external things that you might see that you don't necessarily like, but that does not tell the whole story of what's going on inside. And so conflict is inevitable, just like taxes, like I said before. However, is it always an inherently bad thing? I want to give you all a quote from Todd Wagner, who was one of the re-engaged authors, that says this. It says, conflict is not sin, but how you respond to it might be. And we can chew on that for a long time because I think there is a lot of truth to that statement, that conflict is not itself sin. There can be growth because of communication and working together to move past whatever the issue is, but our response to it, the external, could be something that is not honoring God. And so y'all have, obviously, if you're here, you have lived in this world for some amount of time, however long that is. And y'all have had relationships, you've seen things play out, kind of work out, that you can be walking down the road, you can be enjoying life in relationship, whatever it is. Like you can literally see rainbows, you can see gumdrops and Skittles on the street. Everything is all good until it's not. The tone of a response someone gives you, the shortness in their answers. Somebody forgets to take out the trash. Your boss doesn't give you credit for something that you did and they give it to somebody else. Somebody calls you something that triggers something in you. Whatever it is, things can be going so good and then all of a sudden they're not anymore. The question becomes, why are we prideful? Why are we selfish? Why can we hurt people in this way? Why do we do those things? And to answer that question, well, to give a response to that question and to walk to Scripture, I want to look at the first marriage relationship between Adam and Eve. And before I get to the actual verse, to give you a little context, in this, where we are and where we're going, Adam and Eve God has told Adam, hey, I've created you. There's one tree that I don't want you to eat from, the fruit of it. And prior to that, there was relational harmony, relational unity between God and man. And not only was it between God and man, but it was between people. Because the soul needs that they had were satisfied completely in God. And so they were able to live in relational harmony horizontally. And so that is not the end of the story, though, unfortunately. And Adam and Eve do rebel against God, and God comes and asks them the question. He said, did you eat this fruit that I told you not to eat? And here's what Adam had to say to God in response to that. The man replied, it was the woman you, God, gave me, who gave me the fruit, and I ate it. It was the woman that you gave me. It's her fault. So God, one, you stepping at me, it's one, your fault, and it's also her fault. That's Adam's response to God. So where there was once unity, now there's disunity. Where there was peace, now there's shame, selfishness, and pride. All of a sudden, where there was none, here it is, right here in your face. Brokenness entered the world when we told God we didn't need you. We don't need your commands. We can do it better than you ever could. And so enters all the brokenness that we see. And if you don't believe me, that was Genesis 3. Very next chapter, Cain kills his brother Abel in a fit of jealous rage. Brokenness is all of a sudden impacting this world in a big, big way. And before I move forward, I want to make sure that you caught this. Adam and Eve were not made perfect. They were made innocent. There's a difference there. Perfection means you don't have any needs. Perfection is God. But Adam and Eve needed each other, and they also needed a relationship with God. The same soul needs that we have today were the same soul needs they had way back when. The difference was they were fully satisfied by God in that perfect harmony and relationship that they had with him prior to them going their own way. They needed to be accepted, they needed significance, and they needed to be secure. And all those things were already met in their relationship with God, and because it was met there, it was perfect between everybody until the sin. And so that is the ultimate driver of conflict and communication, the brokenness that we see in this world. That's the ultimate driver. But now, what do we do in response to that? Before I share the main idea, before I do that, I do want to address that in marriage, in relationships, and whatever it is, this process that I'm going to walk through can help in certain situations. But there is a reality of abuse and physical, verbal, all of that, all of those things are real and do happen. And that is handled in a totally different way than what I'm about to walk through now. But I do want to address that and make sure that we do talk about that. But the big idea that I have for today is this. It says, you will fight, but how do you fight well? You will fight, but how do you fight well? And so I have a method that is hopefully helpful. It's not an end-all, be-all. It's not going to answer every single thing every single time, but I hope it's helpful because it was helpful to us. And so the first step in this method is to look in the mirror. When you're in conflict, the first step is to look in the mirror. And I want to turn to and ask you to turn to what Jesus had to say about this. It's in Matthew 7, verses 3-5. Jesus says, "And why worry about a speck in your friend's eye when you have a log in your own? How can you think of saying to your friend, 'Let me help you get rid of that speck in your eye,' when you can't see past the log in your own eye? Hypocrite. First, get rid of the log in your own eye, and then you will see well enough to deal with the speck in your friend's eye." So here, Jesus is obviously not talking about marriage specifically, but what he is addressing is our tendency to look at other people first, trying to pull out little specks and little inconsistencies and things we don't like in everybody else, but we got a big log sitting in our own eye of what's going on with ourselves. It's not easy to always look inwardly first, but in any conflict, whether you think you've done anything wrong or not, it can be so helpful to look inwardly first before even making any steps. And to bring this back to Kareen and I, we, for the 7 years in our relationship before we went to counseling, had never emotionally connected. Never really emotionally connected. As bad as that sounds, that was the truth. And I thought we were. I thought we had all the things answered, figured out, until our counselor told me that we weren't. Every single thing that I thought I saw in Karina, maybe not every single thing, but most of it, most of the issues I saw, I was trying to pick out specks in her eyes when I had a log in mine, was that the counselor told me that she doesn't want to move forward with you because she doesn't feel that y'all are connected. She can't go anywhere because she doesn't feel like you care about her feelings. And that was really hard to hear. But it was the log in my own eye that I didn't want to see. And so applying that, what really helped us with our counselor, and all the counselors we went to were Christian counselors, so it was really helpful to unpack the gospel and Jesus as it relates to all those things. What she helped me to see was that because we have victory in Jesus, we don't have to win every single other thing. That was huge for me to hear. That because I'm secure, I have victory in him. It's okay to be weak. It's okay to be vulnerable because then I see his strength. So incredible and so impactful to look inwardly first. So that's the first step, to look in the mirror. And so that brings us to the next step in the process, is to believe the best. So we're looking in the mirror, looking inwardly first, and then we can believe the best. And I want to go to an Old Testament verse to unpack that. It's 1 Samuel, and this is God speaking to Samuel, and it says it right there. The Lord said to Samuel, "Don't judge by his appearance or height, for I have rejected him." The Lord doesn't see things the way you see them. People judge by outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. And so the context of this is Samuel is picking the next king of Israel. And God sends him to this guy named Jesse, who has, I think, 7 sons, 7 or 8. And Jesse lines them all up and says, "Okay, Samuel, I want you to pick from these guys." Samuel goes to the first guy, big old, tall, strong-looking guy. And Samuel says, "This has got to be him, right?" God says, "Nope." Goes to the next one, maybe a little bit shorter, maybe not as strong. Hits him. Samuel says, "That's got to be the guy, right?" God says, "No, that's not him." Goes through all of them, and none of them was the next king. And so Samuel says, "What in the world, God? What's going on?" And then Jesse says, "Oh, wait, I forgot the guy who's out in the field, the shepherd boy, my other son." Brings him in, and that was the king of Israel, King David. But it's because that God looks at the heart. He doesn't look at the outward appearance. He's looking at the heart, and that's what he saw and had in David. And Jesus did the same thing. He had the biggest fights with the religious people of his day because he told them, "Your hearts are corrupted and crooked. Your actions look great, but on the inside, everything is broken and messy, and you need me." And so we have to look at the soul needs first. We are human beings. I understand that. We see the behaviors that we don't like. But if we can ask God to help us see what we don't see, to help us see past whatever's on the outside, to know that whoever we have conflict with has an upbringing, has needs that may not be met with God first, and whatever is you see as the external can be a result of all of the brokenness of this world. To look at people the way that God sees people and try to look past what we see on the outside to look to the internal. And that's not easy to do. People do things that hurt, say things that hurt, and it can be so hard to try to believe the best. And so to apply this, I honestly just say I would ask you to ask God to help you to do this, because with our own strength, it is impossible. Because we are humans, and we are going to see whatever's on the outside and let that guide us and direct us. But if we could take a step back, look in the mirror, and ask God to help us to believe the best about whatever is going on, it can be so helpful, and to see a person as a whole person. But you can ask me, so Tyler, okay, we looked in the mirror, and we have tried to believe the best, but are we ever going to address the issue? And so, yes, that's the last step in the process, is to address the issue. And y'all, there are no shortage of ways to do that. There's a million ways, a million methods and steps that you can do to do that. But like I said from the outset, I wanted to focus on the internal over looking at the external, because the internal is where true heart change happens. And so for us, as Karina and I looked to handle this issue that we had, it wasn't a one-time conversation. It wasn't we do this thing, hit the bar, hit the mark, and we're done. It wasn't that. Because our counselor helped us to look in the mirror and believe the best, now when I looked at Karina and when she looked at me, we didn't see an enemy anymore. We were able to see a child of God who is wired differently and sees the world in a very different way. So as we asked each other questions to kind of try to uncover these soul needs that we had, here's kind of where we landed. So as I said before, there's 3 of them: acceptance, significance, and security. Karina is more driven by acceptance. She wants to make sure everybody's in harmony, that everybody is having a good day, a good relationship, and that she is part of the team, that she is accepted and feels that she is. If there's any relational tension, any kind of thing that's off, she can't sleep, it stresses her out. She is a person driven by acceptance. And how that played out with us is that she wanted to make sure that her parents and family were on board fully because she loves them and wants everybody to come together in harmony. I didn't see that and look at that and say, okay, that is a good thing. Because I had to give up a timeline. I had to give up things in order to get there. But what I saw was that God has wired her this way, and it is beautiful because it helped me because she's so accepting and forgiving. That's the only reason that we were able to get back together, because of the heart that God has wired her with. And so we worked through that and looking at it that way, trying to help her to not put the acceptance of others into a place where it shouldn't be, but looking to Jesus to be that ultimate acceptance of her so that every other relationship can flow out of the acceptance she already has. And so for me, I am not driven by acceptance in the same way that she is. I am a significance and security person. And I was looking for marriage to be that, to be the significance to say, man, you accomplished this thing, you did it, you accomplished this goal, and security of that covenantal relationship. But what I did in doing so was I made marriage an idol. I was asking marriage to give me the significance and security that only a relationship with Jesus could. And I was bulldozing anybody who was getting in my way of accomplishing that goal. And when I had to take a step back and see that, that was messy, that hurt. But I'm thank God that it happened. Because putting Jesus at the center, where he is supposed to be, where he answers all those needs, made all the difference in the world. It wasn't perfect, and it won't be. But now when we look at each other, we try our best to see the whole person, asking God to give us eyes to see what we don't see, to help us see ourselves, and to help us to find our security, significance, and acceptance in him first before we try to answer any conflict. And a verse that I had in my bag that was so helpful to me, that was in my heart, was this one. Is a gentle answer deflects anger, but harsh words make tempers flare. And that was a big part of our story too. But as I share, I hope that this was helpful, that we can look at, instead of looking at the external that we might see in a person, we can look at them as someone who bears God's image, whether they are a child or not, because there is a difference. But everyone is an image bearer, whether they follow Jesus or not. So we can ask God to help us look in the mirror, believe the best, and address the issue as best we can. I know that doesn't apply in the same way to every single relationship. And I can tell you it can at least be helpful to look at a person as an image bearer when we want to address any conflict. And with that in mind, I do have some next steps that we can take today in response to this message. First one is trusting in Jesus for the very first time. If that's you, I'm going to pray a prayer that we can pray together. If you want to pray that, you can do that today. And if you do, please let us know, because we want to walk with you as you start this relationship with Jesus. The next one is memorizing Colossians 3:14. That has been our verse through this whole series. The next one is to ask God to help you see like he does, to look past the external and to look at the internal of a person when it comes to handling conflict. And lastly, take the love style quiz. This is a quiz that our counselor had us take. It looks at your family of origin, and you can take it whether you're married or single too, and it makes the questions a little different. So you can learn how your upbringing affected how you love and how you see love and attachment and all those kind of things. It was so helpful for us, and so I want to pass it along. You can find that in the events tab on the notes section of the app, or if you use a communication card and check that box, either virtually or physically at Guest Central, I will send that quiz to you and you can take it there. But I want to pray and close this and invite Heather out after I finish praying. But thank y'all so much. Truly appreciate y'all. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Appreciate y'all. God, thank you for who you are. I just thank you, God, that you, even standing on this stage, allow me to be honest and let people see a messy side of our story. But my prayer is that people see your glory through it all, and that they can see that our relationship with you is really what carried us through. And for anybody who doesn't have that relationship, and you want that, that's where you are today, I want to ask you to pray with me. There's nothing fancy about this. It's just open up your heart to God and say, Lord, I know that I need you. I cannot get to you on my own. And I want a relationship with you. Would you please today come into my heart and save me and help me to live a life that glorifies you? And for everyone else in the room, I just thank y'all so much, and I pray that what we talked about today will be impactful for you as you go through this week and for the rest of the year and wherever this takes you. And I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Tyler. What a good word today. I have just a couple of opportunities I want to tell you about before you guys scoot today. So the first one is, if you call Believers Church your home, then now is a great chance for you to participate in worship through giving. And your generosity helps us do all sorts of things throughout Believers, but also in our local community and around the world. So if you want to give today, you can do that through our app, through the website. We also have offering boxes on your way out, and you can just drop your envelopes in there if you want to do that. The other thing I want to tell you about is happening next Sunday, and that is our baptism celebration. So if you just prayed with Pastor Tyler to receive Jesus as the Lord of your life, then your next step is baptism. And if you want to sign up to be a part of this, it is not too late. You can use the communication card to do that, and we will get all that information to you this week. If you've been walking with the Lord for a really long time, but you're just kind of feeling that now is the time for you to take this step in your journey with Jesus, then you're invited to participate in this as well. It'll be happening right after this service next Sunday. So go ahead and you can go to get all the information at the events tab and through your communication card. And with that, I'm going to ask you to stand up, say hello to some people that you don't know, and then bring some folks back with you next week. We'll see you next Sunday, everybody. Go be love.